Give us your reaction on this invocation of the special counsel law. Was it called for? Did Merrick Garland really have any other choice?
I think he did the right thing. I think that it's a discretionary call. The terms that are in the regulation talk about he can do this, make this appointment in extraordinary circumstances that make it in the public interest. Here, I think we clearly have extraordinary circumstances, and I think it's going to be far better for someone who is not in any way anyone could suspect a bias. Robert Hur, the appointee, is a former Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, among other things, a well-regarded, very experienced prosecutor. No one can reasonably say that he's going to be biased. So you want that decision to be made in that way. So I think that was clearly the right thing. On the other hand, there isn't any evidence at this point with regard to Biden that the elements of intent, of deliberate concealment, of resistance to efforts to get the documents back where they belong are present. And so I think it's totally illogical to say, oh, well, they're just the same circumstance. From everything we can see right now, they seem not to be similar at all with regard to the element of criminality.
If that's comparing with former President Trump, who apparently had resisted, at least through his lawyers, turning over documents, is one of the first orders of business for Mr. Hur, in your opinion, to find out if there are any more documents? Do we know it all yet?
Well, sure. I mean, I think he's going to want to know that. And then I think he's going to want to know all the circumstances that surround how it was that these documents ended up in these places that Biden, including his home, that Biden had access to. How did this happen? Who did it? It's entirely possible, we don't know, that Biden actually had nothing to do with this, that other people were moving boxes. We just don't know. And so he needs to get to the bottom of those facts. But the ultimate question for him is going to be, with regard to any conceivable criminality, do these elements of intent, of resistance to turning the documents back, of efforts to conceal, of that sort of thing that triggers the criminal aspect of this kind of behavior, are any of those things here? And so far, there's not any indication that they are. And so that's the critical difference that seems to be present right now.
Donald, we have a viewer actually writing a question I don't know the answer to. I don't know if you know the answer to it. We know with respect to the President of the United States, the President, as I understand, can declassify it. Has to do something to do it. Can't just think about it, but has to do something. Did the Vice President have the right to take classified documents off premises?
Oh, I think it depends under what circumstances and how it's done, and I think that's something that needs to be looked into. I'm not aware, frankly, of, you didn't ask the question, but whether the Vice President can declassify documents, I don't know. I don't think any of those assertions are being made here. I think we've really just got to get to the bottom of what occurred and try to understand who did what, why the documents were there, and then what are the circumstances under which they were returned. Everything I know suggests that they were spontaneously returned as soon as the Biden people became aware they were there, far from being concealed.
Let me ask you another question, because again, you know Washington so well on situations like this. For all intents and purposes, it looks like we're going to have the Republican-controlled House do an investigation into this question. We certainly have already heard from Speaker McCarthy on the subject. How does an investigation by a committee up on Capitol Hill interact with a special counsel investigation at the same time looking into many of the same things?
Well, I think that there's good law that indicates that Congress isn't allowed to interfere with an ongoing criminal investigation by the Department of Justice. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't conduct oversight of investigations that have gone on in the past. So I think the sequence here should be, and of course that doesn't mean that that's the approach that the Republican committee on the Hill is likely to take, but it means that what should go on here is the special counsel should proceed and figure out what, just as with President Trump's situation, proceed and figure out what ought to happen. And in hindsight, down the road, I think the House committee or any other committee that wants to do oversight on it could do that, but not while the investigation is going on. Can they interfere with that investigation?
One last one. Any of us who spend time in Washington have always heard, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. And of course, we're not saying there even was a crime here. You're not saying that, certainly. But to what extent should the special counsel be looking into not just how the documents got there, but what happened after they were discovered, how they were discovered, and how it was revealed and when it was revealed? Because it was, unfortunately, right around the time of the midterms.
Oh, I think he needs to understand all those facts. And then he needs to think about what inferences, if any, they support with regard to any considerations relevant to any conceivable criminal conduct. And I think that, that's part of getting his brain around and his staff's brain around the process of what occurred here. They just need to understand what went on. And I think then you go from there and you ask the question, is there any conceivable basis for criminality? The key point is intent. The key point is whether a person here, Joe Biden, or conceivably someone else, did someone conceal? Did someone deliberately hide? Did someone make an effort to prevent these documents from getting back where they belong? Or is this just a situation where the documents found their way to a place and ultimately, as soon as anyone knew about it, they were returned? In which event, that's not a situation where normal practice would suggest a criminal prosecution is remotely appropriate.